Please, please, sir. She's dying." She was no taller than the car's headlights, her face streaked with dirt and frozen tears. Her tiny fingers clutched at the hem of her oversized jacket, sleeves soaked from dragging her unconscious, pregnant mother across the sidewalk on a sheet of plastic she'd scavenged from a dumpster. Her knees were scraped, her breath visible in the freezing air, and her voice, though shaking, was fierce. A man in a dark suit had just walked out of a deli across the street and looked at her like she was trash. "Please help her. She's having a baby." Anna cried out again, louder this time. The man scoffed. "Take your act somewhere else." "I'm not falling for no damn scam." Anna stood frozen as he walked off, shoes crunching on ice. Her mother lay still, barely breathing, her belly swollen, her skin turning a worrying shade of gray. Then headlights appeared. A black Escalade SUV pulled up to the curb. It stopped with a soft mechanical purr, window tint dark as night. Anna stared, breath caught. The passenger door opened slowly, and a tall man stepped out. His coat was cashmere, collar turned up, salt and pepper hair, shoulders straight like someone used to commanding rooms. She ran. "Please, please, sir. She's dying." He looked down at her, eyes narrowing. She gripped his coat sleeve, hands shaking. "Please take her to the hospital. Please, I don't know what else to do." For a heartbeat, the world stood still. The man took a step forward, his eyes scanning the figure lying on the plastic, bloody, unmoving, her rounded stomach rising shallowly. "She's pregnant?" he asked, voice calm. "Yes, sir," Anna gasped. She hasn't moved for a long time. She was breathing funny and then she stopped talking. She always talks, even when it hurts, but now she won't wake up. The man crouched down beside the woman, placing 2 fingers gently against her neck. A few seconds passed. "Fin pulse." He stood, straightened his coat, and said to his driver, "Help me lift her into the car." Carefully, the driver hesitated. "Sir, we don't—" "Now," the man snapped. Anna backed away, stunned. "You'll take us? You'll really take us?" "Yes, and I'm not just taking her to the hospital," he added, holding the car door open as they placed the woman inside. "I'm at the hospital." Anna blinked. "What do you mean?" "I'm Dr. Nathan Hale," he said simply. "Chief OB-GYN, St. Joseph's Medical Center." Anna stared at him like she was seeing a miracle wrapped in a wool coat. He climbed into the car, gestured for Anna to follow. She scrambled into the back seat beside her mother, holding her hand tightly. As the SUV pulled into traffic, sirens were already calling ahead. Dr. Hale tapped his phone screen, speaking quickly to a colleague. "I've got an unconscious female, mid-30s, full-term pregnancy, vitals unstable, prep or notify neonatal, and tell Laura I need her on this one." In the back seat, Anna kept whispering, "Hold on, Mama. Just hold on a little more." And in that moment, under the hum of heated leather seats and the city's cold glow, the fight for her mother's life truly began. If you felt something for Anna, give this video a like, and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Who knows, someone near you might be watching too. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that matter. The black Escalade pulled into the emergency entrance of St. Joseph's Medical Center, the tires hissing on wet asphalt. 2 nurses were already waiting with a gurney under the awning, jackets zipped to the chin, eyes wide as the back doors flew open and Dr. Nathan Hale stepped out first. "Code red," he said without pausing. "Pregnant woman, full term, unconscious, vitals weak. Get her to Trauma 1. Neonatal team on standby." The nurses exchanged a glance not because of the urgency, but because of the man giving the orders. Dr. Hale wasn't supposed to be here tonight. He wasn't even scheduled this week, and he certainly didn't make personal hospital deliveries from the back of his own SUV. Anna tumbled out after them, clutching her small backpack and shivering in the wind. Her eyes followed every move as her mother was lifted onto the gurney and wheeled through the automatic doors. She tried to follow, but a nurse gently stopped her. "Sweetheart, you can't come in just yet. It's a sterile area." Anna looked up, panic blooming. But that's my mom." "She'll be okay," the nurse said gently. "We just need to make sure everything's ready inside. You can stay with me." Nathan turned back for a split second. "Let her sit by the oar window. I want her close. Anna's eyes locked onto his. She didn't know why she trusted him, but she did. Inside, the trauma bay exploded into motion. Monitors beeped, lights flared, and scrubs zipped through the room like a storm of color and command. Doctor Hale had already pulled on gloves, tied the back of his surgical gown, and was examining the initial vitals as the team worked. She's hypotensive, oxygen saturation low, pupils sluggish, he said to Laura, who had appeared beside him like clockwork. She coded before? Laura asked as she adjusted the IV line. Not yet, but she's close. Laura shot him a look. You sure about this? No paperwork. No ID. No idea what we're dealing with. She's crashing, Nathan replied, voice sharp. We don't have time to wait for paperwork. Run a tox screen, blood type, everything, and keep pressure on that uterus. Feels like there's abruption. He turned to the anesthesiologist. Prep for C-section. General. We need to move. Meanwhile, Anna stood behind the glass wall outside Trauma 1. Her fingers pressed against the cool pane, eyes locked on the figure lying so still under the harsh lights. Her breath fogged up the glass with each exhale. Her backpack lay forgotten at her feet. From time to time, she whispered, as if trying to send her voice through the window. Hold on, Mama. Please don't leave me. A volunteer appeared, offering her a juice box and a warm blanket. Anna accepted them silently, never looking away. Back inside the room, Nathan's mind raced through decisions like a machine. He didn't realize it, but his jaw was clenched, his shoulders tight. For years, he'd prided himself on not letting emotion interfere with medicine. He treated royalty, billionaires, and high-profile politicians with the same clinical precision. But this felt different. The moment he looked into Anna's eyes, something stirred that hadn't stirred in a long time. Not pity, he didn't believe in pity. It was something older, deeper. A memory, his own mother, decades ago, holding him close in a hospital hallway not so different from this one. She was coughing blood into a napkin, telling him everything would be okay. She didn't make it through that night. He'd buried that pain beneath degrees, medals, and accolades. Until now. Heart rate's dropping, Laura said. Fetal monitor is inconsistent. We're going in, Nathan said. Scalpel in hunt. Skin opened. Time vanished. The room held its breath. Outside, Anna watched as the machines inside whirred faster. Lights blinking like frantic signals. She flinched when she saw blood on the surgeon's gloves. She didn't understand what was happening, but she knew the look on their faces wasn't good. She's fighting, whispered the nurse beside her. They're doing everything they can. Anna turned. He'll save her, right? That man, Dr. Hale, he'll save her? The nurse hesitated. He's one of the best. If anyone can, it's him. Inside the OR, Nathan's hands moved with a calm born of 1,000 surgeries. The incision was made clean, practiced. He reached, guided, and then, we have the baby, Laura announced. Boy. No cry yet. Clamp and suction. Let's stimulate. For a moment, the room was completely silent. Then sharp, high, and piercing the wail of a newborn filled the air. The team exhaled in unison. Vitals stabilizing, someone called out. Nathan focused on the mother. Hemorrhaging controlled. Blood pressure rising. Close her up. Call ICU. We're not out of the woods, but she's stable. Outside, Anna heard the baby cry and jumped up, her face pressed against the glass. She did it, she whispered. Mama did it. Nathan peeled off his gloves slowly. His arms were shaking. Laura placed a hand on his shoulder. That was close. I know, he said quietly. She doesn't have anyone, Nathan. Just that little girl. He didn't respond. Instead, he looked through the window. Anna's eyes met his again. And this time, he didn't look away. Nathan stood at the scrub sink, staring at his own reflection in the mirror above the stainless steel basin. His gloves were off, blood washed clean, yet a strange heaviness clung to him like wet wool. He should have felt triumph, another life saved, another operation executed with precision. Instead, he felt raw, unsettled. He reached for a paper towel, dried his hands methodically, then pulled off his surgical cap. Outside the OR, nurses bustled with quiet efficiency. Orders were relayed, charts updated, machines wheeled away. It was just another night at St. Joseph's Anna, but not for him. He stepped into the hallway. Through the tall observation windows, he could still see Anna sitting on a vinyl bench, wrapped in the blanket a nurse had given her. Her tiny legs dangled, not touching the floor. She held the juice box in both hands but hadn't sipped once. She saw him. She stood quickly, as if waiting for his permission to hope. "She's alive," he said before she could ask. "She made it." And so did the baby. Anna didn't cry. She just nodded. Then her lower lip quivered, and she whispered, "Thank you." Nathan cleared his throat. "She's being moved to the ICU. We'll monitor her for the next 48 hours. Can I see her?" "Not yet. She needs rest, but we'll make sure you're kept nearby." Anna looked down. "I won't be trouble, I promise." His chest tightened. A nurse approached quietly and handed him a tablet. "Dr. Hale, we still don't have any identification on the patient. No ID, no medical history, no next of kin. She said her name's just Mama," Nathan said, more to himself than the nurse. "We'll need something for the records." He glanced at Anna, then back at the nurse. "Mark her as Jane Doe for now. Let's focus on keeping her stable." The nurse nodded and disappeared down the corridor. Nathan turned back to Anna. "Do you have any relatives? Anyone we can call?" Anna shook her head. "It's just us. Always been." He hesitated. "Where do you live?" She tilted her head. "Right now? We were sleeping in a shelter on 42nd. But they said we couldn't stay after this week." The way she said it, calm, factual, like it was nothing out of the ordinary, gnawed at him. 6 years old, and already used to being unwanted. "Do you have anything with you? Any clothes? A bag?" She pointed to her torn backpack lying on the floor beside the bench. "Just that." He looked at it, threadbare, patched, hanging by one strap. "All right," he said, unsure of what else to say. "I'll have someone from social services come talk to you soon. In the meantime, you'll stay here. We'll keep you warm and fed." "Thank you, Dr. Hale," Anna said quietly. He gave a tight nod and turned away, heading toward the elevators. He needed to clear his head, breathe something besides antiseptic and adrenaline. As the doors closed around him, he tried to convince himself that he had done enough. He'd gone above and beyond, already personally delivering a homeless woman and her child to the ER, performing an emergency cesarean, stabilizing 2 lives without a shred of documentation or guarantee. It wasn't his job to clean up the rest. That wasn't how the system worked. It wasn't his fight. But the image of Anna, standing alone in a hallway too big for her, wouldn't leave him. He arrived at his office, sleek, modern, untouched by the chaos of the floors below. His secretary wasn't there. It was well past midnight, but the low amber light from the corner lamp gave the room a soft glow. He sat behind his desk, leaned back, and closed his eyes. It had been a long time since he let anything touch him this deeply. Too long. A knock at the door startled him. It was Laura. "I thought you went home," he said. She walked in without asking. "I saw your SUV downstairs. Figured you'd try to disappear." He smiled faintly. "You know me too well." "I do." She sat in the armchair opposite his desk, hands folded. "That girl, she's got no one. And that mother of hers? She nearly bled out in our OR. You did more than anyone expected." Nathan rubbed his temples. "And yet, I feel like it wasn't enough." That's because it isn't," Laura said gently. "She doesn't need a miracle surgery. She needs someone to care. For more than just tonight." He didn't respond. "You can't save everyone, Nathan, but you saved her. You saved both of them." He looked up. "Do you know what scares me?" "What?" "I don't even know their names. She just called her Mama. That's all I have." Laura exhaled. "Sometimes, that's all you need." He nodded slowly. After Laura left, Nathan sat in the silence, fingers laced under his chin. His phone buzzed. A message from the board. "You've been flagged for unauthorized patient intake. Meeting scheduled for Monday." Of course. He stared at the screen, then slid the phone face down on his desk. A quiet knock came again. This time it was Anna. "Hi," she said timidly from the door. He stood. "What's wrong, are you okay?" She stepped into the office. "The nurse said I should rest. But I can't. I was just wondering." He waited. "If you'll still be here tomorrow." He looked at her for a long moment. Then he knelt down, so they were eye level. "I'll be here." She smiled softly. The first real smile he'd seen from her. "Okay," she whispered. "Good night, Dr. Hale." "Good night, Anna." She walked away. Tiny footsteps echoing down the corridor. And for the first time in years, Nathan Hale wasn't sure where his duty ended and where something deeper, more personal, had just begun. The cafeteria was nearly empty when Anna sat down at a small table near the window. The soft hum of the vending machines and the clatter of silverware from a lone night shift nurse were the only sounds. A tray of lukewarm mac and cheese, a banana, and a carton of chocolate milk sat untouched in front of her. She stared out the window, watching the snow fall steadily under the glow of the parking lot lights. Somewhere in the ICU above, her mother lay sleeping, hooked to machines and tubes. Somewhere else in the building, Dr. Hale was probably saving another life. But Anna couldn't stop thinking about the cold, not the temperature. The cold, the kind that had wrapped around her bones all winter long. The kind that had crawled into her and her mother's shelter cot and made itself home. The cold of sleeping in alleys, of being looked through instead of looked at. It was the cold of people pretending not to see you. Even now, in the warmth of the hospital, she felt it clinging to her. A nurse approached quietly. "Sweetie, do you want me to warm this up for you?" Anna shook her head. "No, thank you." The nurse gave a sympathetic smile and walked away. She picked at the banana peel, more out of nervous energy than hunger. Her mother always told her not to waste food. But tonight, even the smell made her feel sick. She kept replaying the scene in her mind, the moment her mother collapsed on the sidewalk, the way her lips turned blue, the way no one stopped, not until him. Dr. Hale. She didn't know what kind of doctor he was, only that when he looked at her, he didn't look through her. He had seen her, heard her, even when everyone else ignored her. That meant something, but would it last? After a while, a social worker came to talk. She was kind, with a soft voice and a clipboard she never seemed to stop writing on. Her name was Mrs. Dunning. "We're doing everything we can for your mother," she said, "and you'll be able to see her soon. But in the meantime, we need to figure out where you'll stay, okay?" Anna looked up. "Can I stay here?" "This isn't a residence, sweetheart," Mrs. Dunning said gently. "But we've got a wonderful shelter just across town with warm beds and a great program for kids like you. You'll be safe, and they'll let you visit your mom." Anna's heart sank. "Will Dr. Hale be there too?" "No, honey, but he'll still be here, and you can visit, once a day." The thought of being sent away, of waking up in another strange place without her mother, made her stomach twist. But Anna knew how these things worked. She wasn't new to the system. She just nodded. Mrs. Dunning reached across the table. "You're a brave girl. And smart too. I can tell." Anna didn't answer. After the social worker left, Anna wandered the hallway back toward the ICU waiting area. Nurses moved around with quiet purpose, and the beeping machines behind the glass cast a low, rhythmic song. She saw her mother through the window, still unconscious, still pale. She placed her palm on the glass and whispered, "I'll come back tomorrow. I promise." She stayed there until a security guard gently escorted her to the lobby, where a city transport van waited to take her to the shelter. Meanwhile, back in his office, Nathan sat at his desk, reviewing patient charts that blurred together. His thoughts kept returning to the girl with the too big jacket and the voice like a storm. He rubbed his face. Why is this sticking to me? He'd treated hundreds, thousands of patients. But Anna and her mother refused to fade into the fog of routine. He reached for the hospital's internal messaging system and typed, "Subject, Jane Doe, OB, emergency case, ICU status." He hit send, leaned back, and sighed. The door creaked open. It was Laura again. "I figured you'd still be here," she said, holding 2 cups of black coffee. Nathan gave her a tired look. "Do I look that predictable?" "You look that guilty." He accepted the coffee. She's stable, Laura said. The baby too. NICU has him under observation. Nathan nodded. And the girl? Social services took her to a shelter about 20 minutes ago. He stared into his cup. She shouldn't have to be in a place like that. She's been in worse, Laura said. That's what bothers me. They sat in silence for a while. Laura broke it. You know you could help. Not just tonight. Longer term. Nathan shook his head. I'm not equipped for that kind of responsibility. I'm a doctor, not a guardian. She doesn't need a guardian. She needs an advocate. Someone with power. Someone who sees her. He looked at her. You think that's me? I know it is. Nathan didn't respond. The next morning, he arrived at the NICU just after sunrise. He passed the crib where the baby lay tiny, wrinkled, fighting for breath under a web of tubes but very much alive. He paused, then continued to the ICU, where Anna's mother, still labeled Jane Doe, was resting. She looked better. Color had returned to her cheeks. Machines beeped steadily. He stood there, arms crossed, watching her breathe. Then a quiet voice behind him. She used to hum when I was scared. He turned. Anna was there, in fresh clothes that didn't fit, a blanket over her shoulders, and eyes that looked older than any 6-year-olds should. I asked the shelter lady to bring me back early, she said. She said it was okay. He nodded, stepping aside so she could see her mother. She's stronger today, he said. The bleeding stopped. Her body's fighting. Anna reached up and took his hand. Thank you for helping her, for not leaving us. Nathan's throat tightened. He nodded once, firmly. You're welcome, Anna. She leaned against his side. Just for a moment, but it was enough. The cold was still out there, but in that room, for the first time in a long time, there was warmth. The sun crept higher over the horizon, casting a gentle orange hue through the ICU windows. Morning light softened the sharp lines of the machines and cables, turning the sterile white walls into something almost warm. Anna sat in a chair beside her mother's bed, legs tucked up, fingers fidgeting with the edge of the blanket draped over her. Doctor. Hale stood quietly near the foot of the bed, his arms folded, watching both mother and child in silence. For the first time in hours, her mother stirred. A faint flutter of her eyelids, a twitch of her fingers. Nathan leaned forward, hand instinctively reaching for the pulse monitor. The numbers held steady, strong. He glanced at Anna, who hadn't blinked in minutes. She's waking up, he said softly. Anna slid off the chair and moved closer. Mama? The woman's lips parted, cracked and dry. Her voice came out as a whisper, rough and barely there. Nah, Anna gasped, her eyes wide with shock and joy. I'm here. I'm right here. Her mother's eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first. Slowly, they settled on Anna's face. Tears welled in her eyes. Baby, you okay? I'm okay, Anna said, smiling through tears. You scared me. Nathan stepped closer, checking her vitals and scanning the monitor. You've been through a lot, he said gently. You lost a lot of blood, and your baby, he's safe. He's in the NICU. You both made it. The woman turned her head slowly toward him, her brow furrowed. Who are you? I'm Dr. Nathan Hale. I performed your surgery. Her lips moved soundlessly then. Why? He blinked. Why'd you help us? There was no accusation in her tone, just honest bewilderment. As if kindness was a foreign language she'd heard for the first time, Nathan hesitated, because someone needed to. She tried to smile but winced at the effort. Her eyes returned to Anna, who now had her hand in both of hers. Your name? Nathan asked, lowering his voice. She looked at him again, then at Anna. Monica, she said, voice hoarse. He typed it into the hospital record tablet. Monica. Not just Jane Doe anymore. Do you remember anything before you passed out? He asked. She nodded faintly. Cold. Weak. But I couldn't stop. I had to get to a clinic. I knew I was bleeding inside. I could feel it. And Anna? Nathan asked, glancing at the girl. She brought you here. Pulled you all the way to the hospital. Monica looked at her daughter. Pride and sorrow battling in her expression. She saved me. Again. Nathan gave her a respectful nod. You're both remarkably strong. Just then, Laura stepped into the room with a clipboard. Vitals are looking good. Blood counts rising. I'd say she's on the right path. Monica glanced at her wearily. Thank you. We're just glad you're awake, Laura replied warmly. You've got one tough little girl out there. Nathan looked down at Anna, who beamed at the compliment. Laura continued, Social services is asking for next steps. Shelter housing, custody options. No, Monica said abruptly, trying to sit up. Laura stepped forward. Careful, take it slow. Monica grimaced but didn't back down. I want to stay with my daughter. I have to. That's our goal too, Nathan said. But you'll need a few more days here. And after that, some follow-up care. We can help you apply for assistance. Medical, housing. I'm not asking for charity, Monica said sharply. Nathan raised a hand. It's not charity. It's support. You fought hard to stay alive. That deserves a fair chance. She relaxed slightly. I just want her to be safe. She will be, he said. Later that day, Monica was moved from ICU to a private recovery room. Anna stayed by her side, refusing to leave even when offered toys or books in the waiting room. Monica dozed on and off, her hand never far from her daughter's placket. That evening, Nathan visited the NICU. The baby, now cleaned and swaddled, lay in a temperature-controlled bassinet, eyes closed, fingers curled into tiny fists. He's healthy, the attending nurse said. Strong lungs, no complications. Nathan smiled slightly. He's lucky. Do they have a name for him yet? Not yet. He walked to the side of the crib, looking down at the infant. What's your story, little man? In the reflection of the incubator's plastic shell, Nathan saw his own tired eyes staring back. Something about that image lingered with him like a parallel he hadn't quite grasped yet. He walked back to Monica's room. She was sitting up now, sipping water. Anna rested beside her on the bed, head on her shoulder. Both looked up as he entered. How's the baby? Monica asked immediately. Healthy, strong, needs a name though. She looked down. I haven't thought of one, Anna piped up. We used to talk about names sometimes, when Mama wasn't too tired. Nathan sat in the chair across from the bed. You've got time. He's in good hands. There was a pause. Monica spoke next. You're different than most doctors. I get that a lot, he said, half smiling. You don't just patch people up and move on. He shrugged. Some stories won't let you move on. She looked at him then, long and hard. Why does our story matter to you? Nathan didn't have an easy answer. He looked at Anna, her fierce little face, her eyes still guarded but no longer afraid. Then at Monica, fragile but unyielding. Because I think, maybe I was supposed to be part of it, he said. Monica gave a small nod. Then don't walk away, she said, please. Nathan stood, meeting her gaze. I won't. And this time, when he said it, he meant every word. 3 days passed. Snow turned to slush on the sidewalks outside St. Joseph's, but inside Monica's recovery room, the air was filled with something that hadn't existed there before. Peace. Not comfort, not ease. Those luxuries hadn't arrived yet, but peace, however fragile. Monica was regaining strength. The baby was thriving. Anna was laughing again, sometimes, especially when she got to hold her baby brother in the NICU. Nathan Hale had kept his word. He came by every day, checking on vitals, monitoring Monica's recovery, but more than that, he stayed. He talked, listened. Anna brought him a crayon drawing of the three of them standing under a sun with big sunglasses, her brother in a stroller between them. That's you, she said, pointing to the tall stick figure in a long white coat. I made your hair kinda spiky. He smiled and pinned it to the wall of her mother's room. It's perfect. But not everyone thought so. The hospital board did not find it perfect. Nathan was in the middle of reviewing a patient file when his assistant buzzed in. The board's liaison is here. Conference room B. He sighed. Send them in. She hesitated. Sir, they requested you come to them. He blinked, straightened his tie, and rose. The request wasn't subtle. The power dynamic was shifting and not in his favor. Conference room B was already occupied by 3 members of the hospital's executive board. At the head sat Gerald Stanton, a man who had never been caught in the act of smiling, though rumor had it he used to in the early 92nd. Nathan, Stanton said without standing. Please sit. Nathan sat, expression unreadable. We've reviewed your report, said one of the other board members, a woman in a gray suit with thin glasses. The case involving Monica Willis, or Jane Doe, as she was admitted. She has a name now, Nathan said calmly, and a recovering child and newborn who are alive because I didn't wait for paperwork. No one is questioning your medical decisions, Stanton said, though his tone said otherwise. But you bypassed intake protocol. You circumvented policy on undocumented patients. You committed the hospital to long-term resource allocation without authorization. She was dying on the sidewalk, Nathan said. And her daughter was dragging her down the street in the middle of winter. You're not a social worker, Nathan, Stanton replied. You're a surgeon, a gifted one. And we want to keep you focused where you belong. Nathan sat forward. Where I belong, Gerald, is wherever a life needs saving. That hasn't changed. There was a pause. Then the woman in glasses added, We've received notice that a few donors are uncomfortable with the visibility of this case. There's been press interest, human interest angles, local news sniffing around. You understand the optics of that. Nathan almost laughed. A black homeless woman nearly dies giving birth. And instead of pride in what this hospital accomplished, you're worried about optics? Stanton's lips pressed thin. We're saying this. As long as you're involved in her case, keep it quiet. No interviews, no public statements, no appearances with the family. Let PR manage it. Nathan stood, understood. He left before they could say anything else. Later that evening, Monica sat upright in her hospital bed, cradling her son while Anna nestled beside her. A knock came at the door. Come in, she called softly. Nathan entered, carrying a paper bag and 2 coffees. Monica smiled. What's this? Not hospital food, he replied. I figured you earned a real breakfast. She laughed lightly, a sound still rare enough to be precious. That obvious, huh? He set the bag on her tray. Bagels from West End. They still remember me from residency. Still bribing people with carbs? Always. Anna peered into the bag. Are there any with cinnamon? Nathan handed her one. The last one. Saved it for you. She grinned and took it. Monica looked at him with something unreadable in her eyes. You okay? You seem off. He sat down in the chair beside her bed, coffee in hand. I had a meeting today, with the board. Her smile faded. What did they say? They're uncomfortable, not with your care, but with how public this has become. They're afraid of bad press. Or too much sympathy. I can't tell which. So they want you to back off. He nodded. They want me to stay quiet, stay in my lane. Monica was quiet for a long time. Then, you gonna listen? Nathan took a sip of his coffee, staring out the window for a moment. Her brows lifted. I didn't pull your daughter and your unconscious body into my car to stay quiet. I didn't fight to save you both just to let some committee tell me where humanity stops. If they want me silent, they can try. But they'll lose. Monica's voice was low, steady. That kind of courage has a cost. I've paid worse, Nathan replied. There was a knock. A nurse popped her head in. Dr. Hale? There's a young man from Channel 9 downstairs. Wants a statement about the delivery last week. The one involving the... Nathan held up a hand. Tell him I'll come down. He looked at Monica. You okay with this? She glanced down at her son. If it helps someone else not end up where I did, then yeah, I'm okay. He nodded and stood. Anna looked up at him, bagel crumbs on her lips. You're gonna be on television? Nathan smiled faintly. Looks like it. Can I tell people you're my friend? He paused, knelt beside her, and said, You can tell them I'm family. And for the first time in a long time, he believed it. Nathan stood just outside the glass doors of the hospital's main entrance. The Channel 9 news van parked at the curb with its satellite dish stretching toward the overcast sky. The young reporter, Kyle Dorsey, was waiting patiently, microphone in hand, while a camera operator adjusted his equipment. The light drizzle did nothing to dull Kyle's enthusiasm. Dr. Hale, Kyle said with a polite nod as Nathan approached. Thank you for making time. Nathan nodded. Let's make this quick. Kyle offered a rehearsed smile. Of course, We just want to understand what happened that night, the woman who came in off the street, the emergency delivery. People are calling you a hero." Nathan frowned. "It's not about being a hero. It's about doing the job we're supposed to do." The cameraman signaled they were live. Kyle turned to face the lens. "We're standing here with Dr. Nathan Hale, the renowned obstetric surgeon at St. Joseph's Medical Center. He recently made headlines for performing an emergency cesarean on a homeless woman who collapsed outside the hospital. Doctor, walk us through that night." Nathan glanced at the camera, then back at Kyle. It wasn't a storybook moment. A little girl, Anna, dragged her unconscious, pregnant mother up the sidewalk. People walked past them, ignored them. I didn't. He paused. I saw a woman dying, and a child desperate to save her. That's not just a medical emergency. That's a moral one. Kyle raised an eyebrow. And you took her into the hospital without ID. Without protocol. I took her in because she was a human being in need, Nathan said firmly. Protocol doesn't breathe. It doesn't bleed. People do. The camera panned closer. Kyle continued. Some say this case has raised questions about hospital policy, even legal liability. Nathan cut in, his voice calm but resolute. Then maybe the policies need to change. If the rules stop us from saving lives, then we're not doctors anymore, we're gatekeepers. And I didn't go into medicine to guard doors. I went into it to open them. There was a pause. Kyle blinked. That's powerful, Dr. Hale. Nathan took a breath. There are thousands like Monica out there, living in shelters, streets, cars. They come in last on every list. But they matter. And if my actions make this hospital, or any hospital, rethink how it treats the invisible, then good. The camera light turned off. The cameraman gave a thumbs up. Kyle stepped closer, lowering his voice. That was bold. You sure the board's not going to push back? Nathan smiled tightly. They already did. Kyle extended his hand. Well, thank you for your time. We'll make sure it airs tonight. As the crew packed up and left, Nathan turned back toward the hospital. A familiar figure stood just inside the glass doors. Monica. She was in a wheelchair, wrapped in a blanket, with Anna holding the handle. Her expression was quiet, unreadable. You saw that? He asked, stepping inside. I saw, she replied. Too much? Monica shook her head. Not enough. People need to hear that. People like me, we need to know someone sees us. Anna looked up. You looked serious on TV. Nathan smiled. Serious is my default setting. Monica chuckled softly, then winced and held her side. Still sore. I told you not to wheel yourself around yet. I told you I hate sitting still. He laughed. Fair enough. Laura arrived with a folder in hand. Discharge papers are ready. Monica, we've arranged a 2-week stay at the Haven House Transitional Shelter. After that, housing assistance kicks in. Monica's face softened. That's more than I expected. Laura gave a small nod. You've got advocates now. Nathan handed Monica a small envelope. It's not from the hospital. It's from me. There's a prepaid phone inside. Numbers for me, Laura, and a few others. Use it. Monica stared at it. You keep doing this. Stepping in. Nathan's eyes met hers. Because no one stepped in for my mother. I can't change that. But I can change this. A long silence passed between them. Monica looked down at the envelope, then slowly nodded. Okay, she said quietly. Then let's not waste it. Outside, the hospital curb bustled with afternoon traffic. A hospital transport van waited to take Monica and Anna to Haven House. Nathan helped the driver load the small plastic bin that held their only belongings. As the van door closed, Anna rolled down the window. Will we see you again? She asked. Nathan leaned closer. You better believe it. She smiled, that wide, hopeful smile that only children who've survived too much can manage. As the van pulled away, Nathan stood on the sidewalk, hands in his coat pockets, watching until it disappeared down the street. Behind him, the hospital loomed his fortress, his battlefield, his sanctuary. And now, something more. Back inside, the lobby was alive with chatter. Nurses passed along updates. New patients checked in. A janitor pushed a mop bucket across the floor. Normalcy. Yet Nathan felt the world shift beneath his feet. He knew the board would retaliate in some way. He knew not everyone would see what he saw. But he also knew something deeper, that silence, the kind that lets people fall through the cracks, wasn't an option anymore. And in that moment, standing alone among the bustle, Dr. Nathan Hale realized he'd crossed a line. And there was no going back. Monica sat on the edge of the cot at Haven House, staring at the beige wall opposite her, a stack of intake forms lying untouched beside her. The room was clean, but sterile. The sheets were folded neatly. The air faintly smelled of disinfectant and dollar store lavender spray. Anna sat cross-legged on the floor, coloring with the few crayons she had left. Her backpack unzipped beside her with all their belongings inside. It wasn't the street. It wasn't the hospital. But it wasn't home either. The staff at Haven House had been kind enough. A woman named Cheryl had given Monica a tour and explained the rules. Curfew by 9 p.m., chores every third day, meals at scheduled times, no guests after hours, mandatory weekly counseling. They'd also given her a packet about housing options, low-income units, Section 8 waiting lists, transitional programs, and a number to call about job training. But everything came with forms. Papers to fill out, histories to explain, proof of identification. Monica didn't have any of it. Her ID had been stolen months ago. Her birth certificate, social security card, even Anna's school records all lost somewhere between shelters and bus stops. It was like being asked to prove her existence before they'd help her live. She rubbed her temple, trying to suppress the headache that had been creeping up since morning. The stitches in her abdomen still tugged painfully if she moved too fast. The baby, Isaiah, she'd named him that morning after a long night of prayer, was still in the NICU, but the nurses said he was doing well. Anna looked up. "Mama, are we staying here forever?" Monica hesitated. "No, baby, just for a little while, until we get a place of our own." Anna nodded and went back to her drawing. She was quiet lately. Too quiet. There was a knock at the door. Monica stood, slowly. Her muscles ached from the strain of recovery. She opened it to find a man in a dark suit holding a clipboard and an overbearing smile. "Monica Willis?" he asked. "Yes. John Kendall, Child Protective Services." Her heart dropped. "What's this about?" "I'd like to ask you a few questions. May I come in?" She stepped aside, her body instinctively moving to shield Anna. Kendall entered, glancing around the modest room like he was already making assessments. He pulled a folding chair from the corner and sat down with a thud. "We received a report from St. Joseph's about your case. Given the circumstances, no housing, no employment, and recent hospitalization, we're required to follow up on the welfare of the children involved." Monica's throat went dry. "My kids are fine. I'm sure they are. This is just a standard procedure," he said, though his tone carried a condescension that made her stomach churn. "But there are concerns about your capacity to provide stable care, especially for a newborn." Anna stopped coloring. She watched the man with quiet suspicion. Monica's voice turned sharp. "I'm recovering from emergency surgery. We were on the street because we had no other options. We came to the hospital for help. Dr. Hale saved us." Kendall nodded without emotion. "Yes, Dr. Hale's involvement is noted in the report. He's also under review for bypassing intake protocols, just so you're aware." Monica's fists clenched. Kendall scribbled something on his form. "We'll need to do a formal home assessment once housing is secured. For now, there will be scheduled visits, and you'll be required to attend parental capacity evaluations weekly." "And if I don't?" Monica asked. Kendall looked up. "If the state deems the children at risk, we'll take steps to ensure their safety. Temporary placement, if necessary." She felt the room tilt, like gravity itself had turned against her. "I'm not a danger to my children," she said, voice cracking. "I'm doing everything I can." He stood, folding the clipboard under his arm. "I'll be in touch." After he left, Monica sank back onto the bed, trembling. Anna moved beside her, wrapping her small arms around her waist. "Are they going to take us away?" Anna whispered. "No," Monica said fiercely. I won't let them. That night, Nathan returned home to a message on his private number. It was Laura. We've got a problem, her voice said through the voicemail. CPS is circling Monica. They flagged the case, and the board's not backing you anymore. They think the press made you into a liability. He sat in his kitchen, phone still in his hand, eyes staring into the dark. The next morning, Nathan arrived early at Haven House, an oversized coat in one hand and a brown bag with breakfast sandwiches in the other. He knocked on Monica's door, and when she opened it, he saw the exhaustion on her face. They came, she said. CPS. He nodded. I heard. They think I'm unfit. They might try to take my kids. They won't, he said. Not if I can help it. She looked at him, guarded. Why are you still doing this? Because someone has to, he replied. Anna came to the door, tugging at his coat. Is Isaiah okay? He's doing great, Nathan said, kneeling, and he misses his big sister. Anna giggled softly. Monica's eyes softened for a moment. I'll talk to the CPS rep, Nathan said, standing. I know some people. I'll make sure they understand the truth. And the board? She asked. They can fire me, he said, but they can't make me stop caring. Later that day, Nathan walked into a hearing room at the county child welfare office with Monica beside him. She wore the coat he brought her and held Anna's hand like a lifeline. He spoke with clarity, calmness, and power. She is not neglectful. She is not dangerous. She's a mother who risked her life to save her children. She came to us, not the other way around, and she deserves our help, not our judgment. For a moment, the room was silent, and slowly, the tide began to turn. Not all at once, but it started there, with one voice breaking through paper walls and closed doors. The hearing ended, not with applause, but with something more powerful: silence. That heavy, loaded silence that follows a moment when the truth finally cuts through the noise. The lead caseworker, a woman named Miss Duval, took off her glasses and said, "We'll table our decision pending home assessment. Monica Willis may retain custody under supervision for now." It wasn't a full victory, but it wasn't defeat either. Outside the county office building, the cold January wind whipped across the concrete plaza. Nathan walked Monica and Anna to the sidewalk where his car waited. Anna, bundled in a borrowed coat that was 2 sizes too big, skipped a little ahead. Monica walked more slowly, her steps careful, her body still healing. But there was strength in her pace, now strength that came from being heard, from not being alone. "I thought they were going to take her," Monica said softly, eyes straight ahead. "I wasn't going to let them," Nathan replied. "You don't know what that means," she said. "I do," he said. "More than you think." He opened the passenger door for her and helped Anna into the back seat. Back at Haven House, the staff greeted them with cautious optimism. Cheryl, the case manager, gave Monica a nod. "They called. Said your case is under review but staying intact. That's a win." Monica offered a grateful smile. "I'll take it." That afternoon, Nathan met with a friend, an old college roommate, now a director at the City Housing Authority. They sat in a cramped office, filled with filing cabinets and faded posters about fair housing laws. "I need a fast-track placement," Nathan said. "Single mother, 2 kids. One's a newborn. She's clean, strong, working to get back on her feet. I'll vouch for her." His friend raised an eyebrow. "You don't usually pull favors." "I don't usually meet people like her." The man tapped at his keyboard, scanning a database. "There's a 2-bedroom unit on Broad and 14th. Subsidized, safe, needs some minor repairs. You want it, it's hers. Paperwork can catch up later." Nathan exhaled. "I owe you." "No, you owe me 2 dinners," the man said with a grin. 3 days later, Monica stood in front of a modest brick apartment building with Anna by her side, and baby Isaiah nestled in a borrowed carrier. The winter sun glinted off the windows, and the air smelled faintly of fresh paint. "This is it?" she asked, barely believing. Nathan handed her the key. "It's not a palace, but it's yours." She held the key like it might disappear if she blinked. Inside, the apartment was small but bright. Hardwood floors, a working radiator, clean walls, a second-hand crib already waiting in the corner. Anna raced from room to room, laughing, shouting, "Mama, there's 2 bedrooms." Monica walked into the kitchen, touching the worn countertop with reverence. She turned to Nathan. "Why are you really doing this? What's in it for you?" He leaned against the doorway. "Because when I was 7, my mother and I lived in a car behind a laundromat. I remember what it felt like to have nowhere. I remember the people who looked the other way, and I remember the one nurse who didn't." Monica was quiet. Her eyes shimmered. "I know what it costs to be invisible," Nathan added. "I just don't want that for your kids." Monica looked around the apartment again. The quiet, the warmth, the hope. "Then help me stay visible." Over the next few weeks, Monica worked harder than she ever had in her life. She attended every counseling session, filled out every job application, followed every instruction from CPS. Cheryl at Haven House helped her get a state ID. Laura pulled some strings at a local clinic to get Monica certified as a part-time patient tech. Nathan brought groceries when he could, always pretending it was just extras from a food drive. One afternoon, while Isaiah napped and Anna colored quietly at the table, Monica sat on the couch sorting mail. Among the papers was a letter from CPS. She opened it slowly. Her hands shook. "Dear Miss Willis," it began. "After review of your case and confirmation of your stable housing, employment enrollment, and successful completion of mandated parental courses, the state of California is hereby lifting supervision requirements. You retain full and unrestricted custody of Anna Willis and Isaiah Willis effective immediately." She pressed the paper to her chest. Her breath caught in her throat. Anna looked up. "Mama?" Monica smiled through her tears. "We did it, baby. We really did it." That evening, she called Nathan. He didn't answer at first, so she left a voicemail. "I got the letter. It's official. We're free." Later that night, her phone buzzed. A text. "Nathan, proud doesn't even begin to cover it." Monica stared at those words for a long time. The next Sunday, she stood outside the old community church on Elm Street, holding Isaiah in her arms, while Anna danced around in a hand-me-down dress. Inside, the choir sang hymns about new beginnings, about mercy and faith, and doors once closed now swinging open. Monica closed her eyes and let the warmth wash over her. She wasn't healed. Not entirely. There were still nights when the cold clung to her dreams, when the fear of losing her kids woke her before dawn. But now she had a home, a voice, a second chance, and that was enough to fight for. Nathan arrived late, slipping into the back pew. He didn't want thanks. He just wanted to see. And as he watched Monica lift Isaiah into the air while Anna laughed and twirled, he realized something profound. This wasn't just her resurrection. It was his, too. It had been 3 months since Monica stepped into her new apartment. 3 months since she reclaimed her children and her voice. Life hadn't become easy, but it had become real. Her mornings began with feeding Isaiah and getting Anna ready for school. Her afternoons were spent in training sessions at the community clinic, learning how to assist nurses, how to monitor patients, how to hold her ground in a system that once tried to erase her. The apartment still had mismatched furniture and a flickering kitchen light, but every corner carried a piece of her fight. Every wall, a story of survival. One Thursday morning, as Monica zipped up Anna's coat before school, the little girl looked up and said, "Mama, when are we going to see Dr. Hale again?" Monica paused, brushing a stray curl from her daughter's forehead. "He's been busy, honey. He still works at the hospital." Anna frowned. "But he's family. He said so." Monica smiled softly. "I'll call him." Later that afternoon, while Isaiah napped and the house was quiet, Monica sat at the kitchen table and dialed Nathan's number. He answered on the second ring. "Hey, stranger," he said, his voice warm. "You still picking up my calls?" she teased. "Always." There was a pause, comfortable, familiar. "I wanted to ask," Monica began. "Anna keeps talking about you. She misses you." "I miss her too," Nathan replied. "Well, I was thinking, we're planning a little birthday party for Isaiah. It's nothing big, just cake, some neighbors, maybe a balloon or two. But if you're not too busy, we'd love to have you there." Nathan didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was different, quieter. "You sure?" "I wouldn't ask if I wasn't." Then I'll be there. That Saturday, the apartment was filled with the smell of vanilla cake and the sound of kids' laughter. Monica had pushed the couch aside to make room for a makeshift play area, and a folding table was covered with juice boxes, paper plates, and second-hand decorations. Isaiah, now plump and wide-eyed, sat in his high chair wearing a paper crown Anna had made from construction paper and glitter glue. When Nathan walked through the door, he looked almost out of place in his dark blazer and jeans, holding a small wrapped gift with uncertain hands. But the moment Anna saw him, she squealed, "You came!" and threw her arms around his waist. He laughed and knelt. Wouldn't miss it. Monica watched from the kitchen, her heart full. Later, as the party quieted and parents began gathering their kids, Monica found Nathan on the small balcony, looking out over the neighborhood. The sun was setting, casting a warm amber glow on the concrete and rusted railings. She joined him, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You're not much for parties, huh?" He took a cup and smiled. "I've seen quieter operating rooms." She chuckled. "Well," Isaiah liked his gift. "It's just a stuffed elephant," he said. "It's more than that." He reached for it right away. They stood in silence for a while. Nathan glanced at her. "You did this, Monica. Not me. Not the hospital. You. I had help. You had heart," he said, "and you never gave up." She looked at him, the wind playing softly with her hair. "You're not just a doctor, you know. You're more." He nodded, swallowing. "Sometimes I forget that." A car honked below. A child screamed with delight. Life moved on around them. Monica sipped her coffee. "There's something I didn't tell you. About that night, when you found us." He turned. "What is it?" "I almost didn't call out," she said. "When I saw you getting out of the car, I thought, here's another man in a suit who'll walk by and pretend we don't exist. I'd been invisible so long. I didn't think my voice mattered anymore." Nathan's jaw clenched slightly, his eyes darkening. "But I called out anyway," she continued. "And you stopped. And in that moment, something inside me changed. Not just because you helped, but because you saw us. You saw me. And that saved more than my life." He looked at her for a long time, then said, almost a whisper, "You saved mine too." They stood there, 2 people once strangers, now bound by something deeper than debt or rescue. The door slid open behind them. Anna poked her head out. "Cake time." Nathan grinned. "Duty calls." They walked inside, side by side. As Monica lit the candle on Isaiah's cake, the small crowd clapped and sang. The baby clapped too, oblivious to the meaning, but laughing all the same. When Monica leaned in to whisper a wish before blowing out the candle, her eyes locked with Nathan's across the room, and though she didn't say it out loud, her wish was clear. Let this moment last. Let this be the beginning, not just an ending. As the candle's smoke curled into the air, Monica felt something she hadn't felt in years. Home. The Monday after Isaiah's birthday felt like a return to routine. Monica dropped Anna off at school, kissed Isaiah goodbye at the daycare center where she had bartered volunteer hours for care, and headed to the community clinic for her afternoon shift. The early spring air carried the scent of thawed earth, a reminder that winter's grip had finally loosened. Still, something about the day felt off. The sky was too gray, the wind too sharp. At the clinic, Monica was met with warm greetings from the nurses and a quick rundown of her duties for the day, organizing patient charts, assisting with intake, and shadowing Nurse Doreen during the evening rounds. Monica had grown into her role quickly. She was attentive, empathetic, and reliable. Patients trusted her, staff respected her. She felt like she finally belonged. But around 4 p.m., a man entered the waiting area that made her blood turn cold. He was tall, pale-skinned, with a thin frame and greasy hair pulled into a loose ponytail. His clothes were rumpled, his eyes sharp and erratic. Monica recognized him immediately. Derek, Anna's father. He hadn't seen her yet. He was speaking with the front desk receptionist, his tone low but urgent. Monica's breath caught in her throat. Her hands trembled. She turned and hurried toward the back hallway, finding a small break room where she could gather herself. "He found me. After all this time," She hadn't seen Derek since before Isaiah was conceived. He'd disappeared after one of his violent outbursts, leaving Monica bruised and without money, taking off with what little food they had. She never filed a report, afraid no one would believe her, afraid of the system. She had thought he was gone for good, but now, he was here. She paced the tiny break room, heart pounding, trying to decide what to do. She couldn't run, not again. Not with Anna in school and Isaiah depending on daycare pickup. She had a job now, a life. Running meant giving up everything. Then she remembered the prepaid phone Nathan had given her months ago. With trembling hands, she dialed his number. He answered almost immediately. "Monica?" Her voice cracked. "He's here. Derek." At the clinic, there was a beat of silence. "Is he threatening you?" "Not yet. He hasn't seen me. But I don't think he's here for medical help." "Ugh. Where are you now?" "In the break room, near the back." "Stay there. Lock the door if you can. I'm on my way." Before she could thank him, he'd already hung up. Monica pressed her back to the wall, clutching the phone like a lifeline. Her thoughts spiraled. What if he found Anna? What if he demanded Isaiah? What if he used his name on the birth certificate to claim rights? 10 minutes passed like an eternity before she heard footsteps approaching. A soft knock on the break room door made her flinch. "It's me," Nathan's voice said gently. She opened the door slowly. He stepped inside, his presence like a shield. "I called building security," he said. "They're escorting him out now. He said he was looking for someone he used to know. Nothing violent. But still, I don't like it." Monica sank into a chair, hands shaking. Nathan knelt beside her. "Do you want to press charges? File a restraining order?" "I want him gone," she whispered. "Forever. Then we start that process now." They spent the next hour at the nearest precinct, filling out paperwork. Monica told the officer everything about the abuse, about his abandonment, about how she feared he would try to reclaim the kids as some kind of power play. Nathan never left her side. By the end of it, a temporary protective order was filed. Monica would have to return for a hearing in 2 weeks to request a permanent one. As they stepped out of the precinct, the night air wrapped around them. "I hate this," she muttered. "Just when I thought we were safe." "You are safe," Nathan said. "This time, you're not alone." She nodded, swallowing back the fear. "Thank you. For coming. For being there." He looked at her, his gaze steady. "Always." Back at the apartment, Anna was asleep, curled up with Isaiah on the couch under a blanket. A neighbor had agreed to watch them during the police visit. Monica kissed her daughter's forehead, then sat on the edge of the couch, watching them sleep. Nathan lingered by the door. Monica turned to him. "He could try something. He knows where I work now." "I'll talk to the clinic director," Nathan said. "We'll increase security. And I'll have someone check on the daycare and school. We'll make sure they're alert." She stood and walked toward him, exhaustion lining her features. "I hate that there's still shadows in my life," she whispered. "Even now. Shadows only win if we stop shining," he said. Monica stared at him for a long time, then reached out and hugged him, not out of gratitude, but something deeper. Something anchored in pain, in survival, in shared purpose. "I'm not letting him take this from us," she said. "You won't," Nathan replied. As he left that night, Monica stood at the window, watching the quiet street. She saw the same streetlight flicker that had been flickering since they moved in. The same tree that leaned too far, but everything felt different now. The shadows were still there, but so was the light. 2 weeks passed in a blur of paperwork, restless nights, and anxious mornings. Monica tried to keep things normal for Anna, packing lunches, checking homework, walking her to school, but the weight of what was coming loomed over her every day. The court date for the restraining order against Derek had arrived, and no matter how much she tried to push it out of her mind, it consumed her thoughts like a slow-burning fire. Nathan drove her to the courthouse that morning. Monica sat in the passenger seat, dressed in the only formal outfit she owned, a navy blouse and a skirt that used to belong to her mother. She held a folder in her lap with printed texts, photos of bruises from years ago, and her own handwritten statement. It felt fragile, almost laughably small, compared to the fear she'd carried for so long. "Do you want me to come in with you?" Nathan asked, breaking the silence. She looked at him, her face calm but resolute. "Yes, please." The courthouse lobby smelled of floor polish and paper. Everything felt too bright and too quiet. Monica checked in at the clerk's window, then sat in the hallway outside courtroom 4B with Nathan by her side. The door creaked open, and a court officer called her name. She stood, legs trembling slightly, and walked inside. The room was modest, a few pew-like benches, a raised bench for the judge, 2 tables for the parties involved. Derek was already seated on the opposite side, wearing a wrinkled button-up and glaring at her with thinly veiled contempt. He looked different, older, more ragged, but the menace in his eyes hadn't changed. The judge entered, and the courtroom rose. "Be seated," the judge said. "This is a petition for a permanent restraining order filed by Monica Willis against Derek Hamilton." Monica took a deep breath as her name was called. She stepped to the front, her voice steady despite the storm inside. "Your Honor, I'm here today because I fear for my children and myself. Derek and I were together years ago. He was abusive, physically, emotionally. When I was pregnant with my daughter, he left us with nothing. He stole, he hit, he vanished. I didn't go to the police then because I was scared. I had no one." She paused, glancing toward Derek, who smirked dismissively. "But I built something. I fought my way back. I have a job now, a home, a future." And then he came back. He showed up at my workplace, asking questions, not offering help, not even pretending to care. Just watching, like a shadow waiting. She handed the clerk her folder. "These are records from the clinic, statements from my supervisor, and a report from the officer who took my complaint." The judge nodded. "Thank you. Mr. Hamilton, your response?" Derek stood slowly. His voice was oily, slick with false charm. "I never hurt Monica," he said. "She's exaggerating because she's bitter. I just wanted to see my son. I found out about him late and thought maybe I could help. That's all." Nathan shifted in his seat, restraining himself. "Do you have any evidence of your involvement in the child's life?" the judge asked. "No, but Any financial support? Medical records? Contact?" "No, Your Honor," the judge sighed. "Very well. I will review the petitioner's documents and testimony. Please remain seated." The silence that followed was unbearable. Monica's eyes locked on a small crack in the wood of the bench in front of her. Trying not to look at Derek, trying not to think of all the nights she cried herself to sleep believing he might return to finish what he started. After a long pause, the judge finally spoke. "Miss Willis, your testimony is credible. Your documentation supports a consistent pattern of neglect, abandonment, and threatening behavior. Given the safety concerns for you and your children, I am granting a permanent restraining order. Mr. Hamilton, you are to have no contact, direct or indirect, with Miss Willis or her children. Violation will result in arrest." Monica exhaled sharply, her body trembling with the release of tension she hadn't even realized she was holding. The judge banged the gavel. "It is so ordered." Outside the courtroom, Monica broke down. Not in fear, but in relief. She pressed her hands to her face, the tears flowing freely now, tears for every moment she'd felt powerless, every time she'd stayed silent, every time she'd doubted she could win. Nathan pulled her into a hug. "It's over," he whispered. She nodded against his chest. "It's over." They walked out of the courthouse together, into the pale sunlight of late morning. Monica tilted her head up, eyes closed, as if trying to memorize the feeling of this moment. Freedom. Later that evening, back at the apartment, Anna greeted her at the door with a drawing in hand, a crayon sketch of Monica holding a baby, with a tall man beside them labeled Doc. "Did you win, Mama?" Anna asked. Monica smiled and knelt. "Yes, baby, I won." Anna grinned, then ran back to her room, her laughter echoing down the hallway. Monica looked around the small apartment, the dishes in the sink, the pile of laundry, the flickering hallway light, and for the first time, none of it felt heavy. It was theirs. It was real. She sat on the couch and opened her journal. She hadn't written in it for weeks. not since the fear had crept back in. But tonight, her pen moved easily. Today, I stood up in court and told the truth. Today, I faced the man who tried to erase me. Today, I wasn't just a survivor. I was seen, I was heard, and I am still here. She closed the journal. In the quiet that followed, Isaiah stirred in his crib, and Monica walked to him, gently rocking him back to sleep. The shadows were gone, and the light was hers to keep. Spring came to the city like a promise finally fulfilled. Trees bloomed with new life along the sidewalks, and Monica found herself walking taller, breathing deeper, and smiling more often. Her days were filled with work at the clinic, parenting duties, and quiet moments that used to feel unreachable, like folding Isaiah's laundry in peace or listening to Anna describe her day without worry clouding her thoughts. One Monday morning, Monica was organizing patient files in the clinic storage room when Laura appeared at the door, holding a manila envelope. "You've got something," Laura said, handing it over. Monica wiped her hands on her scrubs and opened the envelope. Inside was a typed letter on official hospital letterhead. Laura watched her face. "You okay?" Monica's eyebrows lifted. "It's from the hospital board." She read aloud. "You are formally invited to speak at the St. Joseph's Medical Center Annual Community Impact Forum. We wish to highlight stories of resilience and reform. Your story as a former patient and now a caregiver exemplifies the power of second chances." She trailed off, stunned. Laura smiled. "Told you people were paying attention." Monica blinked, overwhelmed. "Me? Speak? At a hospital event? You don't have to say yes, but they're not asking out of pity. You're part of something bigger now." That night, she called Nathan. "They want me to speak," she said, pacing her kitchen. "In front of doctors, donors, media. It feels surreal." "I think it's exactly right," Nathan replied. "People need to hear it. From you." "But I'm not a speaker," she argued. "You weren't a mother of two holding down a job and winning custody hearings either. Yet here you are." His words grounded her. She looked over at Anna coloring at the table, Isaiah gnawing on a teething ring nearby. "Okay," she said. "I'll do it." The days leading up to the event passed quickly. Monica worked on her speech during her lunch breaks, scribbling notes in a worn notebook. She didn't want to sound polished or perfect, just honest. She wanted to speak for all the women who never got the chance. When the day came, Monica stood behind the heavy curtains of the hospital's conference hall, dressed in a simple navy dress with flats. Her heart raced as she peeked at the audience: nurses, doctors, community leaders, and at least one news camera. Nathan stood near the back of the room, offering a calm, reassuring nod. The MC introduced her with a few kind words. Then it was her turn. She stepped up to the podium, the microphone adjusted to her height. She glanced down at her notes, then looked up at the crowd. "My name is Monica Willis," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "And a year ago, I was living on the street with my pregnant belly and a 6-year-old daughter. I was invisible." A hush fell over the room. "I wasn't always homeless. I had dreams. I had hopes. But life can unravel quickly when you don't have support. When you're told, directly or indirectly, that your pain doesn't matter. That your story isn't worth hearing." She paused, her eyes sweeping across the room. "But then someone saw me." A little girl cried out to a man in a suit on the sidewalk, and he stopped. He didn't ask for my insurance. He didn't demand proof I deserved help. He just helped. A few heads turned toward Nathan. That moment changed everything. It brought me to this hospital. It brought me back to life. And because of that moment, I fought for my children, for my dignity, for my future. Monica took a deep breath. "I now work at a community clinic. I help people who are where I once was scared, unseen, clinging to their last thread of hope. And I remind them that they're not invisible." The audience remained silent, not out of disinterest, but reverence. This hospital saved me. But more than that, it listened. And that's what we need more of: listening. Compassion, policy that reflects humanity. Systems that don't just treat symptoms but address causes. Monica stepped back from the podium. "Thank you for seeing me. And thank you for letting me be seen." A moment passed. Then applause, soft at first, then rising, sincere, and strong. Nathan met her at the steps off stage. "You were extraordinary." Monica shook her head, emotional. "I was just honest." "Honest is rare," he said, "and powerful." Lou. As the event wound down, people approached her, nurses, administrators, even donors offering hugs, words of encouragement, business cards. A woman from the city council asked if Monica would speak at a local youth program. A young nurse confided that her own mother had once been in Monica's shoes. By the time Monica left the building, her bag was full of contacts, and her heart full of something deeper: validation. Later that night, at home, she tucked Anna into bed and held Isaiah close. As the baby dozed on her chest, she whispered into the quiet, "You saved me, you know, both of you. You gave me something to fight for." The apartment was still small, the future still uncertain, but something had changed. Monica's voice had found its place in the world, and the world, at last, was listening. A week after the hospital speech, Monica sat at her kitchen table late into the night, writing thank you notes by hand. Anna had insisted on adding stickers to each envelope, tiny gold stars and smiling suns. Isaiah slept peacefully in the next room, his soft breath a steady rhythm Monica had come to depend on. Everything seemed to be moving forward. Life was not perfect, but it was stable, warm, filled with purpose. But peace has a way of inviting reminders of what came before. One afternoon, Monica received a letter with no return address. The envelope was wrinkled, the ink slightly smudged, but her name was written in a hurried script she didn't immediately recognize. She opened it slowly. Inside was a single sheet of paper, handwritten. "I saw you on television. You stood up there like you'd never done wrong. Like you were better than the rest of us. You think you're safe now? You think you can pretend like none of it happened? I know the truth, and so will everyone else soon." There was no signature. The world fell silent around her. The letter dropped from her hands, fluttering to the floor. Her heart pounded, blood rushing in her ears. She backed away from the table like the letter had caught fire. This wasn't Derek's handwriting. It was messier, angrier. But someone had seen the broadcast. Someone who didn't want her to move on. Later that night, she sat across from Nathan in his living room, the letter on the coffee table between them. "You think it's Derek?" she asked. Nathan shook his head slowly. "Number. His writing is tighter, more controlled. This feels unhinged. So who then? I don't know, but we're not taking any chances." Nathan contacted the local police and filed a harassment report on Monica's behalf. The letter was taken into evidence, and a patrol car was assigned to pass by her apartment more frequently. Nathan even installed a security camera outside her door, motion activated with a direct feed to his phone. Still, the air around Monica felt heavier. Shadows seemed longer. Her body tensed at every knock on the door. For the first time in months, sleep became a battle again. But she refused to let fear reclaim her voice. She still showed up at the clinic. She still cooked dinner. Still read Anna bedtime stories. She still held Isaiah and whispered promises of a bright future. But inside, a part of her was always watching, waiting. A few days later, while checking in patients at the clinic, she noticed a woman sitting in the waiting room, older, with a deep scar across her cheek and worn sneakers. She sat too still, her eyes not moving from Monica. Monica tried to focus on her paperwork, but her instincts wouldn't let it go. During a break, she quietly asked Laura, "The woman in the green coat, what's her name?" Laura glanced at the sign-in sheet. She didn't give one, said she was just waiting for someone. But she's been sitting there for almost an hour. Nathan happened to visit the clinic that day, dropping off a donation of baby formula for the pantry. Monica pulled him aside. "I think she's watching me," Monica whispered. "The woman on the bench." Nathan turned subtly and spotted the woman. Their eyes met. The woman stood abruptly and walked out the door. He followed. Minutes later, Nathan returned, breathing heavier than usual. "She's gone," he said, but she knew she was being watched, and she didn't like it. Monica stared after the empty door. "This is what it's like, isn't it? When you try to rebuild, Something always tries to tear you down. Nathan put a hand on her shoulder. Yes. But now you've got bricks, not sticks. You're not going to fall so easy this time. That night, Monica sat with Anna on the fire escape, watching the stars blink through the city haze. Are you sad, Mama? Anna asked, her voice small. Monica looked down at her daughter. Why do you ask that? Because your mouth is smiling, but your eyes are like when Isaiah has a tummy ache. Monica chuckled softly. I guess I'm just thinking a lot. Anna leaned her head on Monica's arm. Are we still safe? Monica hesitated for only a moment. Yes, baby. We're still safe. And she meant it not because the threats had vanished, but because she wasn't facing them alone. A few days later, another letter arrived. This one was typed, the envelope postmarked from another city. But it was unmistakably connected. You keep talking. I'll keep watching. We all remember what you did. It's not over. Monica brought it straight to the police. This time, they promised to elevate the investigation. But answers didn't come quickly. Back at home, Monica made a choice. She began writing everything down, not just the threats, but her story, all of it. The nights on the street, the first time she held Anna, the cold fear of giving birth in a hospital without ID, the kindness of strangers, the cruelty of others, and the man in the SUV who changed her life. It started as a journal. Then it became chapters. Then it became a manuscript. Nathan read the first few pages one evening and looked up with tears in his eyes. This isn't just your story, he said. It's a mirror. For a lot of people. Monica smiled. Maybe it's time I held it up. Oh, the threats were real. The fear was real. But so was her strength. And now, her truth would have a spine and a title. A name people couldn't ignore. Monica Willis was no longer just surviving. She was publishing. She was speaking. She was standing again. Months passed since that handwritten threat arrived. Yet Monica never let its ink bind her voice. She poured her story into pages raw, unfiltered, vivid, and one crisp spring morning, she sat at her tiny kitchen table, staring at an email that made her heart tremble and soar all at once. Your manuscript has been accepted for publication. She read the subject line again, disbelief mingling with triumph. Her memoir, a chronicle of survival, motherhood, and reclamation, would soon reach beyond her apartment's four walls. That evening, Nathan walked in to find her seated at the table, tears streaming down her face as she held the message. He didn't ask questions, he just moved behind her and wrapped his arms around her. This is real, she whispered into his shoulder. Yes, Nathan replied softly. And it's going to change more than your life. Weeks of edits followed. Monica worked with a patient editor who respected her voice, molding her words to resonate, yet remain genuine. Her draft shifted gently from personal catharsis to universal beacon. She added brief reflection prompts at the end of each chapter, questions to invite readers to confront their own histories and healing paths. When her memoir stabled into print-ready form, a plaque arrived. She brushed her finger across her name on the cover. Standing from the Sidewalk by Monica Willis. The title alone felt like a monument. The day her book launched, Monica and Anna unpacked boxes with dusted edges and crackling spines. Her hands shook as she pulled out a copy. Inside, a dedication page read, "For Anna and Isaiah, they are my light." The city library arranged a reading in their local branch. Monica stood in front of folding chairs lined with neighbors, clinic colleagues, and even Dr. Hale, who held Anna on his lap. When she began to read aloud, her voice was steady, carrying the weight of every struggle, every saved breath, every terrifying moment. Afterwards, a woman in a nursing uniform held up her copy. "Your courage gave me strength." W.W. A man in a well-worn hoodie wiped tears. "I've lived rough times too. You gave me hope." Monica focused on Anna in the back, drawing a star next to her name in the program. Later that night, Monica typed a message to her editor. "I want to donate a portion of royalties to local shelters to make sure no child is invisible again." The editor wrote back, "That is the legacy of your story." Monica looked at the blinking cup of the coffee shop across the street. She'd come a long way from quiet battles to public storytelling. Her memoir, much like those of other courageous black women before her like Bridget M. Davis, honoring her mother in the world. According to Fanny Davis or Sarah M., Broom building a home through words in the Yellow House did more than recount trauma. It demanded recognition, crafted connection, and opened doors. A television segment invited her to discuss the book. She stood on camera, speaking calmly about alleys, ultrasound machines, judgments, and love. She spoke for Anna, for mothers hidden away, and for the child who thought her pleas were whispers too faint to pierce hearts. When she returned home, Anna ran into her arms. "Mama, you're famous." Monica smiled through tears. "I'm just seen." Nathan joined them, wrapping his arms around both. In that quiet glow, they stood vulnerable yet unbreakable. Monica whispered, "This is only the beginning." Nathan kissed her forehead. "And it's already a revolution. Because healing matters, truth matters, and from the grayness of that cold street, a book was born, and with it, a light no one could deny. Autumn had painted the neighborhood in soft golds and rusts, the air carrying a nostalgic hush. Monica watched from her kitchen window as Anna chased Isaiah across the small courtyard, peace finally breathing between them. It wasn't the kind of peace that erased memory, it was the kind that whispered, "You survived, and you thrive." That morning, an envelope arrived for her at the clinic, delivered without ceremony. She recognized the thick paper, embossed with refined lettering. It was an invitation this time to speak at a community forum on healthcare disparities, organized by a coalition of local medical workers, activists, and parents. But there was something else tucked inside. A generous check, earmarked entirely for the Sheltering Wings Foundation, the nonprofit she'd started with a portion of her memoir's royalties. Tears welled as she read. Healing, it seemed, had grown wings. Later that afternoon, she found Nathan in the staff lounge sharing coffee with Nurse Doreen. "He's going to have a single father support group at the clinic," Doreen was telling him. "I told him you'd be interested." "Oh." Monica leaned against the doorframe, the invitation still in her hand. Doreen spotted her. "Hey, you're not invisible here." Anna had always said that, but hearing it from strangers felt powerful. Nathan looked up and grinned. "Looks like you've made quite a ripple, Monica." She smiled, then sighed. "I thought I'd be too tired for more advocacy." He poured her another cup. "Fatigue is not your shadow anymore. But if you need a break, that's okay." She glanced back at the invitation. "I want to speak. I want to make sure the fund actually helps moms who thought no one saw them, especially Black women, older women, queer mothers, the women who never get the mic." He reached for her hand across the table. "Then do it. I'll be there." The evening of the forum, the community center buzzed with expectation. Under soft lights, tables were arranged in a semicircle, filled with hopeful families, healthcare advocates, and doctors who had sat through Monica's memoir reading but didn't yet know the full impact she would make tonight. When her turn came, Monica rose. No stage, no podiums, just people leaning forward, ready to listen. "Thank you for coming," she began. Her voice was grounded, deliberate. Where healed voices linger, transformation begins. She looked at every face, the exhausted single dad, whose toddler clutched his hand, the older woman with a walker, the young Black nurse whose eyes shone with recognition. "This fund," she continued, "is not charity, it's reclamation, for mothers and parents pushed to corners, whose stories were deemed so small they might vanish." She paused, letting that surface. She laid out specifics: emergency prenatal funds, transportation grants to get to medical appointments, nurturing workshops that addressed trauma, financial literacy, and community-building circles. Men and women nodded in solidarity. Tears gleamed. "I don't want people to donate just because I lived it," she said. "I want people to give because it was never right that anyone should have to live through what I did." Nods, applause, soft clatters of mugs. Afterward, a panelist approached her quietly. "You're shaping policy with words," Monica exhaled. "Never thought my shaky writing would ring like a bell." Back at home, she settled in the living room, Anna and Isaiah asleep under the same blankets. The check was laid out on the coffee table. She imagined lives shifting because one girl's scream, one mother's persistence had found resonance. Nathan came in quietly, "How'd it go?" he asked. She nodded toward the folded check and the lingering warmth of the living room lights. It wasn't just good. It was moving. He sat beside her quietly. "I'm proud of you," he said. She leaned against his shoulder. "We're proud of you," she whispered, knowing the words were for both of them. They'd come so far. Outside, the leaves rustled in final goodbyes to summer. In the quiet, they let it all rest, not because the fight was over, but because survival demanded reflection, gratitude, and the courage to build anew from the stories that once defined them. In those soft moments, Monica realized, some endings were just the prelude to a fuller life. The first snow of winter settled softly over the neighborhood, a tender blanket that glowed in the lamplight, silent but full of promise. In the living room, Anna and Isaiah matched their breath to the soft hum of the space heater. Monica sat at her desk, poised with a pen over fresh pages, surrounded by scattered meeting notes, grant applications, and the seed of a new vision, creating a nonprofit modeled with heart, rooted in the lived experience of mothers in crisis. She took a deep breath and picked up the invitation she'd received a few days prior from the mayor's office, asking her to join a nascent coalition focused on maternal health equity. It was an honor, but to accept it, she needed a platform. That's when she made a decision. She leaned forward and began to write. Hand steady, Sheltering Wings Foundation. Empowering mothers, lifting futures. Within that name, she embedded purpose, memory, community. Weeks later, the foundation took form in a small church basement with folding tables, mismatched chairs, and freshly baked cookies donated by neighbors. Monica stood at the head of the room with a small group of women, some nurses, a social worker, a volunteer liturgist, and 2 young mothers from Anna's school PTA, each nodding at her quietly. "This is not just another shelter service," she began. "This is a space built from shared stories. For mothers who once believed no one saw them. We begin by offering emergency prenatal support, transportation, housing resources, and advocacy training. But we also offer something more: community, healing, solidarity." She looked around. Faces glowed with hope, recognition, a shared knowing that they and their stories mattered. In the audience, a volunteer whispered, "This is necessary." Another wiped a tear, saying, "This is powerful. The kind of power that doesn't shout, it changes lives." Over the next months, Sheltering Wings Foundation partnered with local clinics, connecting mothers directly to care, housing vouchers, and safe birth plans. Inspired by models like Deborah's Place in Chicago offering housing first, supportive services for homeless women, the foundation wove together healthcare, counseling, legal assistance, all under one roof. Monica visited local nonprofits for guidance. At New Moms in Chicago, she learned how integrated services, housing, job training, coaching lift mothers and families' long-term actuary. At Jeremiah program, she studied the 2-generation model, empowering mothers while nurturing young children in safe communities. She adapted their impact to suit her city, her community, her vision. One cold evening, as snow gathered on windowsills, Monica hosted a meet and greet for the foundation's first cohort. Among the attendees was a young black mother, wrapped in a threadbare coat, cradling sleeping twins. She stood at the edge of the room, quiet, until Monica gently invited her to join in. Through tearful speech, she said, "I've been so invisible. I didn't think I deserved help." Monica knelt beside her. "You are seen. You deserve more." Around them, volunteers offered hot soup, a warm blanket, a hug, and for the first time in long memory, that mother let herself believe change was possible. Meanwhile, Nathan observed from the sidelines, delivering baby clothes, being the technical advisor for their legal clinic, offering safe medical training. Sometimes he sat quietly in the background, watching Monica's gentle leadership fill a room, her presence moving people. One evening, as they closed up the makeshift office, he handed her a cup of tea. "You've built something real," he said softly. Monica smiled, eyes shining. "Because we remembered what it was like to be forgotten. Now we lift each other." In the silence, they listened to the snow outside, the certainty rising that this was more than a foundation, it was a home for the healing they all deserved. And as the night grew quiet, Monica understood that in creating space for others, she had carved a home for herself and for every mother who needed wings to soar. Winter's edge had melted into a soft spring, the courtyard now alive with the steady rhythm of glistening raindrops. Monica watched Anna and Isaiah run barefoot across the moist grass with wildflower stems tangled in their hair. It was a sight she had once thought impossible. But here, in this quiet warmth, she felt the final piece of a long journey settling into place. The invitation came that morning. A city proclamation from the mayor's office, declaring the date a Recognition Day for Maternal Justice, in honor of Monica's work through the Sheltering Wings Foundation. Her eyes filled at reading the words that recognized what countless mothers fought for in silence. The proclamation promised funding for supportive housing programs inspired by her model. At the ceremony later that afternoon, hosted just outside City Hall, Monica stood on a small platform beneath pastel banners that fluttered in the mild breeze. Anna and Isaiah were perched on her shoulders, their laughter weaving around her like a melody. Nathan stood behind them, holding the edge of his coat to clear raindrops from his glasses. A few officials and community members gathered in front, applauding as the mayor read her name and her story. When it was her turn, Monica stepped up to the microphone, heart steady and voice clear. "Thank you, Mayor Fields. Thank you to the families, volunteers, and every clinician who believed that motherhood deserves dignity and support. Today is not about me, but about every mother who dared to speak her truth and every child who waited to be seen." The applause rose, wide and full. She watched Anna wave at the crowd. Isaiah banged his tiny fist against her shoulder, excited by the crowd, not yet burdened with understanding. Then quietly, "This isn't award-winning, it's overdue," she said. "When mothers suffer invisibility, it starts at policy. It hides in paperwork, in thrown-away referrals, in the silence of those who could have helped." Sheltering Wings didn't launch with fanfare. It launched because the idea had been delayed too long. Heads nodded. "And the real justice," she continued, "is when we live it every day. When we feed a woman who's hungry, shelter a family in winter, hold hands with mothers keeping on despite everything. When we look at someone and say, 'I see you.' That is justice, without applause." Oh, she turned and shared that moment with her children. Their bright, muddy faces reflected the cluster of community supporters, volunteers, parents who had grown through the foundation, and medical staff who had stood by her from the beginning. As the crowd dispersed into the courtyard into local families who'd lined up for bread bowls and flowers, Monica lingered, feeling a knot loosen inside her. A woman approached, smiling softly. "Your story gave my daughter courage," she said. "Now she's hosting workshops for teen moms. Thank you." Monica reached out and held her hand. "We keep building." Nathan emerged, handing her a plate of warm soup and honey bread, the same meal she'd given mothers in Sheltering Wings' basement office. He stood close, and she leaned into his warmth. Anna tugged at her skirt. "Mama, can we go home now?" "Yes, sweetheart," Monica replied, lifting her from the wet grass. Isaiah grabbed her arm in his new steady way. They walked together, a line of three, muddy and beautiful, toward the car parked beneath blossoming trees. On the drive home, silence settled but gratitude filled the space. Monica looked into the rearview mirror, Anna and Isaiah's faces framed by spring blooms. She whispered to herself, "Mom, you'd be proud." Arriving home, they crossed the threshold together. The apartment looked the same, but everything felt different. The walls whispered safety. The dining table held letters from prospective donors, invitations to advisory councils, but most of all, the promise of lives healed through what began with a plea. Later, as night deepened, Monica tucked Isaiah into bed. His eyelashes flickered under lamplight like tiny shadows of dreams. She kissed his forehead, then tiptoed to Anna's door. Inside, Anna lay reading, absorbed in a well-loved book. She looked up and smiled. "Ready for bed?" Monica asked. "After one more chapter?" "One more chapter," Monica agreed, brushing the hair from Anna's face. After the door closed gently, Monica exhaled and turned off the lights. Downstairs, she found Nathan waiting in the living room, coffee in both hands. "You did it," he said simply. She sank into the couch beside him. "We did it." Outside, a lone street lamp flickered in the courtyard, reflecting off puddles with soft gold. Monica listened to the quiet hum of home. She had saved herself. She had saved them. Now, she was saving others. and nothing would ever fall through the cracks again. The story of Monica teaches us that even in the darkest moments, resilience and compassion can pave the way to lasting change. It reminds us that no voice is too small, and no struggle is too invisible when one dares to speak out and stand firm. Through her journey from homelessness to advocacy, we learn that justice begins with being seen, and that true healing often comes when we choose to lift others as we rise.